Hi there. Welcome to Flow into Authenticity. My name's Esther, artist and creative coach. My hope is that through these videos, you'll be able to connect more to your creative flow, move through any blocks that are holding you back, and really begin to create from your true authentic self. Please remember to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content so you can get anything new and fresh that comes out when I put it out. Thanks so much for being here. Are you struggling with some kind of a block that's keeping you from your creative projects or doing what you love? I can relate. I want to share with you today about how trauma can affect us and show up as these blocks in our life. I know we hear a lot of people talking about motivation that say, just do it, just do the thing, push through. And when that can be helpful sometimes, and we can use some hacks and tricks to overcome things like procrastination or blocks that are keeping us stuck. But when it comes to trauma, that's sort of a whole different level, and tricking yourself or pushing yourself, as I've heard from you all, just does not work a lot of times, and how I've experienced that as well. And so I want to talk a little bit about something that I've really struggled with for a really long time, and is a huge block, and how I'm sort of working through that, and how trauma can inform these things. My family was very independent, very work oriented. So you just, you hustled, you worked, you did the thing, you worked a lot all the time. That was sort of where you got your worth. And then there was a lot of anxiety in the caregivers that I grew up with. So I inherited a lot of anxiety in regards to work and doing it right, or things like that. A lot of people think that trauma is just a huge, like if you're in war or if you were really abused, but trauma can be really anything that is very overwhelming for your body, that your body wasn't able to release or wasn't able to deal with at the time. So what happens is, even before we are able to talk, we absorb these ideas and these energies from the people who are around us. And what happens is we create this neural pathway in our brain where if we experience these things in our nervous system, that when we experience them as older adults, they trigger this response and this rush of chemicals where they can cause this anxiety. Like in my case, it's anxiety. So for me, anytime I went to like work or do anything work related, I would get this anxiety, just this rush of anxiety, and I would feel it in my chest, my throat, and my heart would be beating. It could be something even really small, like writing a blog post or something like that. So this can start when you're very young, right? Even pre-verbal, but then it just gets reinforced. So for instance, like when I went back to school, I was under a lot of trauma because I had left an abusive relationship. I was in this very panicked state of needing, basically survival. And so when I went to do my work, even though it was work that I liked, work that I loved, it was fun, art, I would get this rush of anxiety. And so every time I went to sit down at my computer or draw something or do client work, it would be like this panic. But I would just keep pushing myself, right? So I would just push myself to just move forward. And I knew that I could push myself because I had a lot of energy. I had a lot of willpower. And so I was under the control of what my therapist lovingly calls Punisher. So I was working under Punisher for probably my entire adult life. So this kind of like threat of, well, if you don't do this, this will happen. And then just pushing myself. So my body and the neural pathway in my brain that responded to my body's response to any time it can be, picking up the computer or some, that's pretty much it, is the computer response of like, okay, I have to do this, right? So that is something that is so deep within my body that just saying to myself, well, you have to do this, just force yourself to, even so I have let me step back. I have a lot of ideas. I have so many things that I want to share with you all. I'm a teacher. I love teaching, right? And so there's so many things that I love doing and want to do. But when I go to do them, I have this flood of a response. So it's not something that is that I can push down with my brain. I can't tell myself, okay, don't have that response, because it's in my body. It's in my nervous system. So with something like this, so you might be able to relate to this somehow. Like if you think about doing something, a project, even though you really want to do it, your body responds with a no, right? And so because I've been reinforcing that for so long, I've been pushing myself because, it's something that I really want to do, right? So I sit down on my computer, push myself to do it. Well, when I started getting into living in flow, living through my intuition, really connecting to my intuition and trusting myself, not relying on the Punisher, not relying on hacks or tricks to trick myself into doing this thing, it becomes very difficult to transition from a place of being under the Punisher, forcing myself, to trust, creating from a place that's full of trust and ease and flow. And I see this all the time with my clients as this really tough transition from working under the hustle mentality, right? This old paradigm of pushing yourself, forcing yourself, just do it. That paradigm to shifting to a more easeful, you're using your motivation, your internal intrinsic motivation to motivate you, instead of relying on shoulds or have-tos. So especially when it's this kind of deep trauma where you've been reinforcing this for so long. So how do you transition when it's not just a mental thing, right? But it's more deep. How do you transition from really that harsh place of doing to I want to do this and it flows easily? We don't want to reinforce the process of this forcing or this hypervigilance, whatever it has been for you. So whatever has been the situation in your past where you can feel that emotion arising in yourself, we don't want to unknowingly just keep going into that situation. So I don't want to just pick up my computer and just keep drinking my coffee and feeling that hypervigilance and pushing myself, because it's just reinforcing that. So we want to use awareness, whatever practice you're doing, use awareness to calm the nervous system, to take a breath, to really connect to yourself and envision a different way of coming at that problem, right? So I do not want to be hypervigilant every time I sit down on my computer, because I have a lot of things that I want to do. I have a lot of things that I want to share, but one of the reasons I have kind of stopped myself from doing all of the things that I want to do is because I don't have the capacity to do them without hypervigilance. So, the answer is not to stop doing all the things. That's not the answer. But the answer is to work on our nervous system, our body, to be able to grow the capacity so that when I do sit down at the computer, when you do go to do the project, you have the capacity for your nervous system to be fully present instead of blocking yourself off with this sort of fear response. If you talk to anybody who's worked with trauma, it comes down to working with the body and working on a more subconscious level. Most of these responses happen, before we develop any like cognitive ability in our prefrontal cortex. They're on the subconscious level that we had when we were babies, so pre-verbal even. There's a lot of different ways that you can come at this, and somatic work is really beneficial because you're working with your nervous system. You're working to come down into that trusting place, right? Develop that trust with your body, with your intuition, that your intuition is going to lead you to be able to do this thing. And then you're developing this calm response instead of going into high alert, right? I have developed these, what I call re-envisioning exercises, and they are deep meditations or hypnosis where you go in and you basically reprogram. So rewire that neural pathway that was once created, but you do it when you're in that more subconscious level, a lower brainwave state. Then you're not in this high mental loop. When you have these kind of traumas, we know through neuroscience that you are able to change them, right? But it takes time. So in order to change them, to rewire those deep pathways, it takes time and it takes practice. So it takes doing it over and over again. And so just like with somatic work, if you're working with a hypnotherapist or any other kind of work like EMDR, this kind of neural reprogramming takes time. So what I've been doing lately is just doing it every day and every night. So I hope that makes sense. And I just wanted to share a little bit because I know that a lot of you are, you've told me that just doing it, just pushing through doesn't work for you, and you're not alone. There's a reason for this. It's a deeper reason. So these are things that I work a lot with my one-on-one clients with, especially in the 6-month package, because it takes a long time to do this work and to continually come back to it. I think this is what kind of sets me apart from other coaches, in that I really kind of work deeply on these instead of just telling you, okay, do this, and kind of setting you on your own. I give you the resources, and I also give you the help one-on-one in our sessions. If you need help with this, please reach out to me. If you would like access to any of these re-envisioning exercises, please message me. Eventually I'll have them up as an offering, but right now just you can message me and I can give you access to that. So hang in there. It's all about learning to trust yourself, learning to go through this process and be aware and be able to trust yourself in every moment, everything that you're creating. And how amazing does that feel to be able to trust yourself and let go instead of having Punisher pushing you to do everything that you want to do. So love you all, and reach out to me if you have any questions about any of this. And remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.